When one of the residents in Forest Hill neighborhood examined his doorbell camera from previous night, he could not have guessed that his camera has captured the most horrific crime ever.
Here in New York City tonight, police want the public's help. The surveillance image showing someone dragging a duffel bag following the brutal murder of a mother of two. Police believe she knew her killer, and here's ABC's Eva Pilgrim tonight.
Tonight, authorities are looking at this surveillance video, part of their investigation, showing a person dragging a duffel bag down the street. 51-year-old Orsolya Gaal's body was found in a duffel bag on the side of the road near Queen.
Welcome to my channel. Before we get started, we would like to send our thoughts and prayers to the loved one of Orsolya Gaal, who fell victim to these horrible acts described in this case. This story takes us to the quiet, peaceful, and affluent neighborhood of Forest Hill. This neighborhood is known to be peaceful, quiet, and the crime rate is very low. The streets are safe. But on the 16th of April 2022, all that changed. On that morning, 911 operators received numerous calls from concerned residents about the suspicious bag that has been laid and discarded on the side of the road. And that bag is dripping blood, and it seems it have the remains of a woman. Police then rushed to the area and started with their investigations. During investigations, police uncovered trail of blood that extended from where the bag was discarded through the street of Forest Hill and right to the door of the house in Juno Street, that is 9 blocks away. And as police were continuing with their investigation, inside the house they found blood on first floor and also more blood in the basement with blood-stained knife. On the third floor, police found a 13-year-old boy sleeping. When they asked him who he was, he told them he was Leo and was staying in the house with his parents and his 17-year-old brother Jamie. He told them that his father and his brother Jamie went to Oregon, but he does not know where his mother was. The 13-year-old boy was handcuffed and taken to nearest police station for further questioning. After being questioned without the presence of an adult, officer determined that Leo had no knowledge of the crime. They released him into the custody of a relative. Meanwhile, at the crime scene, police had already identified the body of being that of 51-year-old woman Orsolya Gaal, Leo's mother. Leo learned about the brutal homicide of his mother while he's being accused of unaliving her. Forensic examination of Orsolya's body revealed that her throat was cut, she had 58 stab wounds, she had defensive wounds on her palms and fingers, and it guaranteed that it was a homicide. As police were continuing with the investigations, one of the residents provided them with footage of a horrific evidence. A man is seen dragging a bag, the very same bag that was discarded on the street. So the big question is, who is that person seen on the footage dragging the bag at 4 a.m.? Orsolya Gaal has lived in Forest Hill with her husband Howard Klein and sons Leo and Jamie for nearly a decade. Orsolya met Howard at Christmas party in Budapest in 1994. The 23-year-old has just finished her studies at Budapest School of International Business. The 25-year-old Howard was about to begin a master's in finance at Columbia Business School. And for several weeks, the two exchanged love letters before holidaying together in Thailand. And when Howard returned to New York, he invited Orsolya and she never left. Howard went on to find a successful advisory firm, and Orsolya worked for several years in Manhattan, but she put her career on hold and raised couple's two sons. On August 2012, the family had moved into this 5-bedroom house in Forest Hills. Friends and family describe Orsolya as someone who's extremely friendly, someone who's always smiling, and someone who loved life. Her friends also said, but her greatest joy in life came from her two sons, who she loved them dearly. Orsolya was also a regular traveler. Her Facebook pages are full with family trips from Paris, Tokyo, and also Japan. Orsolya appeared to be the perfect picture of the happily married mother, but as we know, the outside is never the whole picture. And when police confirmed on the press that Orsolya's husband and her son were persons of interest, all eyes turned to her husband. But Howard and Jamie, their 17-year-old son, were not in Forest Hill at the time of Orsolya's murder, but were in Portland, about 4,500 kilometers away, apparently checking colleges for his upcoming graduation. In the early hours of the morning of his wife's murder, Howard received a very disturbing message from his wife's phone. And the message read, "Your wife sent me to jail some years ago when you were living near Austin Street in Forest Hill. I'm back. Don't call the police or I will kill your family." And in response to a harrowing message Howard received from his wife's phone, he wrote, "We are now returning to New York." And then Howard and his 17-year-old son then took an early flight back to New York. Soon afterwards, Howard will receive a call from police that his wife's remains had been found near Forest Park. But Howard's every move was under intense scrutiny from neighbors, from television, from newspapers, and from social commentators.
Why photograph me? Why is photograph me? You're not taking my credentials. Yeah, I want to take. I want to see your credentials. I want to take pictures. You can see my credentials. Yeah, no, I want to see. I want to take pictures of you. Okay. Okay. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
You can't touch me. If you touch me, I'm gonna call the police.
Okay.
If you touch me, I'm gonna call the police.
I'd like to know your name.
My name is Robert.
Meanwhile, police were going through phone records, surveillance videos, and receipts of all the places Orsolya had visited that night, trying to piece together a final movement before her death. Orsolya told neighbors on Friday the 15th that she was heading to Manhattan that evening to see an opera at the Lincoln Center with some friends. An examination of her phone, however, revealed a different story. Orsolya had been communicating with 3 different men on the night of her murder. It was with one of those men that Orsolya had gone to the concert with at Lincoln Center. All 3 were now under investigation. By 11 p.m. that night, Orsolya was in the Forest Hill area. She had come home on the train alone and then stopped at the Forest Hill Station House Bar, where she often went for drink or food after a night out. Police believe Orsolya arrived home at 12:20 a.m. Her attacker had entered her house shortly after, sometime before 12:40 a.m. And by 4 a.m., the killer was wheeling Orsolya's body away in her son's hockey bag. But the note on Orsolya's refrigerator will help point the way. The note simply said, "Find a new handyman." Of the 3 men with whom Orsolya had been communicating on the night of her murder, one of those men is David Bonola, a 44-year-old handyman who was doing odd jobs at the house for the past 2 years. According to police investigations, David Bonola was married father of 2 who had illegally entered the United States from Mexico 21 years ago. By the time of Orsolya Gaal murder, David Bonola had been estranged from his wife and children and had been staying in the apartment in nearby Richmond Hill. It was soon clear to police from the nature of messages on Orsolya's phone that soon after taking on work from her house, the love relationship between Orsolya and Bonola started. Bonola had been leaving comments on Orsolya's Facebook page. He had been leaving messages like, "Love those streets and architecture, that landscape and the giant volcano and you," followed by a heart emoji. Meanwhile, police knew that Orsolya had ended things with Bonola in early April of 2022, just weeks before her murder. When police maintained that they had no suspect in the case, they had been closely monitoring Bonola and his home. Then Bonola had been on police radar ever since. At 6:05 a.m. on the morning of the murder, a CCTV camera on 114th Street had captured Bonola walking with the makeshift white bandages wrapped around his left hand. Later that same day, Bonola had gone to the city MD for help with cuts on his hands. David Bonola also admitted to sending the threatening message to her husband. But doctors sent him to Bellevue Hospital after they told him that his wounds were too deep for them to treat. At the same time, police went to search for more evidence in all the dumpsters that were around Bonola's residence before they were collected. And they wanted to recover and go through that garbage without a search warrant. That trash will be Bonola's undoing. Amongst his garbage, they found brown boots soaked in blood, allegedly worn by Bonola when he stabbed Orsolya more than 60 times, along with blood-stained t-shirt and bloody bandages. DNA result confirmed that Orsolya Gaal's blood was found on the boots and on the t-shirt. DNA result also confirmed that it was Bonola's blood that was on the bandage. On 20th of April, David Bonola was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. David Bonola was then transported to NYPD's 112th precinct, where he made a surprisingly frank confession to the murder of Orsolya Gaal. Bonola told police that he and Orsolya had been involved in an on and off again relationship for 2 years. Orsolya had recently broken things off again, and Bonola had gone to her house in the early morning hours of April the 16th in an attempt to make amends, but the conversation had become heated and Orsolya had led Bonola to the basement to avoid waking her son Leo. The argument has escalated further, causing Bonola to fly into a rage. He grabbed the knife and slit Orsolya's throat, he said, before stabbing her repeatedly. Not wanting her son to discover his mother's body, he placed the body in her son's hockey bag and dumped it outside in Forest Park. The following day, David Bonola revised his confession. He said he had gone to Orsolya's house after discovering that she has given him HIV. Orsolya then grabbed the knife and told him repeatedly to leave the home or else she will unalive him. And at that point, he had grabbed the knife from her and cut her throat. But the small amount of blood found in that area cast serious doubt on that claim. He was found guilty of first-degree manslaughter, first-degree criminal tampering, and fourth-degree criminal possession of a weapon. He pleaded guilty to manslaughter. In November 16, 2022, David Bonola was sentenced to 25 years in jail for unaliving Orsolya Gaal.